is, Interview Friday. I'm your host, Joel Marshall, here on Lunch Therapy. Lunch Therapy is a show where we take a break from the crap. Basically, we get off of our news cycle, we put it in the rack there, take a little bit of a mind break. We do a little bit of breathing. Today is Interview Friday. Every Friday, I interview somebody who I find super interesting, and today is no exception. We have the actor Stephen Tobolowsky on here. Kamala says, "Hoi." That's how we greet everyone on the show, "Hoi." Feel free to comment. We got a comment here from Pam Palmieri. I put them on the screen during the interview. It's super fun. Let's jump into it with our interview with Stephen Tobolowsky. This is Lunch Therapy. Okay, we're in. We have now stepped into the circle. We have left all our crap on the outside of the circle. Now we're free, and we're gonna breathe. That's what we do here. We breathe. Remy, great to see you. Cade, welcome. Welcome to the forest, Lunch Therapy Forest. You're very pretty to watch. Yes, I spruced myself up for this interview today because this is a person who's very inspiring. There's some great tips for actors, some really good insider Hollywood stuff. But first, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. And let it out. This is a part of the show that is not optional. Breathing is not optional. You must do this every day as much as possible. And this is just a little reminder. In through the nose, out through the toes. Let the oxygen permeate your cells. Let it go. We've had some very interesting guests on this show, I must say, and we have had Tony Horton. We had the world's greatest planker, George Hood. We've had just some incredible people. We had this meditation expert, Agiat, which I hope you'll check that out if you haven't. One more breath, in through the nose, out through the toes. We get some facts on the show. Sometimes we do some fact checking. Let it out. We've had this incredible weather report guy. If you haven't seen the show, if this is the first time you've seen the show, you might want to check out some previous episodes because this is episode 128 since the lockdown. Now we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at some animals because that's what we do on the show. Heather is here. My sister-in-law, they're getting a new puppy. Hopefully we'll be able to see some video of their new puppy. But first, this is Belle the cat. Todd Lee sent this in. That is an elk, which is apparently they come down from the mountains. This is up in Washington State. And this is the first sign of fall, if you can believe it is fall. Heather says you've come a long way. Yes, Heather, and it's only been because of people like you who watch the show. Definitely. All right, we're going to get some video. I'm popping all over the screen today. Heather says that we're going to definitely get some video to come of the puppies. Just one more elk video, and we're going to move on to Stephen Tobolowsky. definitely what I would call that. And, look at that rack. This is one of the places where you can actually say, look at that rack, and not feel like you're being super inappropriate. I thought his name was Tommy Tobolowsky. You see, it's confusing because we've had so many Tommies on the show this week. We had Tommy Sowards, Tommy Hinckley, we had Tom Kearney, and now we have Tobolowsky. Just one puppy, all we can handle. That's right. All right, moving on. Now we're going to get to the action portion of the show. Stephen Tobolowsky is an actor you've seen. If you don't know his name, you know his face. You've seen him. He's done over 200 movies and television shows and plays. I think Groundhog Day was the initial one that kind of launched him into fame. He played Ned Ryerson on that. And then, Silicon Valley, Californication, Deadwood. He was in Memento. The list goes on. It seems like almost too many parts for one person in one person's lives. Still some chat going on about the puppies, and they're nice color. Yeah, it's a nice color, the curtains. I like it too. All right, here we go. Without further ado, Mr. Stephen Tobolowsky. Here we are today with Stephen Tobolowsky, an actor. Obviously, you've seen his face in a million movies. I think probably one of the most iconic characters was in Groundhog Day. I think that's one of the most memorable for most people. But the list goes on. Memento, just a ton. Spaceballs. He was on Californication. He's recently been on the Goldbergs and One Day at a Time, and just a million things. Welcome, Stephen Tobolowsky.
Thank you so much, Joel. Pleasure to be here.
It's so great to have you here. We interview people on Fridays, and I reached out to you, and I was lucky enough to get you. I find you fascinating because you're an inspiration for me as an actor, because of your prolific work and because of I feel like you're an extremely open person from what I can tell. What do you think it is about you that makes you so available? When you tell a story or whenever you play a part, I feel like you're very present. And I also feel like you are not like hiding anything. And I think it's a really great quality in a person. How do you think you got there? And have you been there that way your whole life?
Well, I think I've been that way kind of by nature since I was a little boy. I've always been very naive, very open. But I think in terms of acting, I was always very clever on stage. I would do things to make the audience laugh, regardless if it was in character or not. It was not necessarily good acting, got a lot of bad reviews. And then I was in graduate school, and I was in a restoration play, The Country Wife, which of course is incomprehensible. No modern audience could possibly understand. When we rehearsed The Country Wife, our director, Clara Beringer, she had a bell, and she sat in the audience and she says, "I am going to ring this bell whenever there's a laugh, and you ought to hold."
No way.
And so, we'd be on stage saying this forsooth for not for what. This is a play from like 1740 or whatever. Yeah. Couldn't understand. Then she'd ring, and we'd all be, that was the kind of play it was. So I decided I would do my Stephen Tobolowsky stuff, and the audience loved it. They were laughing like crazy. Yeah. And I had an acting teacher at the time, Ed K. Martin, who some people in your audience may know. Ed was, he taught all over the country. But after the show, he came back and he said, "Well, that was ghastly." and I said, what do you mean? I said, "The audience loved me." He says, "Will you do anything for a laugh?" I go, "Well, just about." I said, "But if you're doing a play that's like this one, you got to give the audience something to grab onto." Yeah. And Ed said, "We don't want clever actors. We want imaginative actors. And to be imaginative, you have to be open, you have to be truthful all the time.
Wow.
All the time. And so I took that as a challenge, and Ed kept pricking me at it. And anyone who knows Ed, he was a real bastard. I mean, he's one of those actors that Phil Hartman would have made fun of on Saturday Night Live. Just one of these acting teachers that eviscerates you.
Yeah. Was this at SMU?
No, this was at the University of Illinois. I met him.
Okay.
And actually, later on, when I worked with Holly Hunter, Holly played my girlfriend on Broadway, and then I directed her in New York in the Miss Firecracker contest.
Her, of course.
Love her.
Yeah.
Holly was taught by Ed
Really?
K. Martin, too.
Oh, wow. He must be
And
good.
so when we met, Holly would say things to me, and I go like, I've heard that statement before. And I go, Holly, you know, we found out we both had Ed K. Martinisms. But I think through time, Ed would really get on me about lying on stage. So I was doing a scene with a girl in class, and she was doing the, you know, I love you so much, and all this. And I, of course, didn't believe her, but my line was, yes, and I love you too. And Ed said, stop it. Do you think she really loves you with that? And I go, well, Ed, the line says, I love you. He says, I don't care what the line says. If somebody says, I love you like that, and you know they're lying, what do? You don't say, I love you too. You go, yeah, I love you too. You know, it affects the way you say it. If you cannot stand someone, leave the stage. So I'm going, you're kidding, Ed. Look, I'm an actor. I want to be a professional actor.
If I leave the stage, no one will ever hire me again.
So anyway, it came upon a time I was actually doing a big role in Los Angeles, The Wild Duck, at Los Angeles Theater Center before an audience of 600. And the woman I was playing Yalmar, which is the lead, and he's a guy who's cuckolded by his wife, his best friend cheats him, all of this stuff, and he ends up forcing his daughter into suicide. It's one of those happy Heinrich Ibsen plays.
Nothing like it.
And so the woman who was playing my wife, Camilla Carr, wonderful actress, she started doing that. Yalmar, you know I love you. And I had this Ed K. Martin flashback. We had a full house, 600 people, and I got up and I left the stage.
You're kidding me.
We had an entire thing to do, and Camilla is like, and she says, Yalmar, I love you.
Yeah.
And I'm backstage and I'm giving her the finger. And I'm not coming back on. And she got on her hands and knees, and tears were coming down her eyes. And she said, please, Yalmar, please, I need to talk to you. And I walked on stage. Reluctantly, we continued the scene. The director, Stein Vinga, the National Theatre of Norway, came running back at intermission, grabbed me and says, fantastic.
I bet. Yeah, you're right.
So
I guess it is true.
I learned the hard way that you should always try to be open. As you say, you should be open and tell the truth, even if you think it's counterintuitive to what you're supposed to say in the play or in the part. Just assume that logic will work itself out somehow, and you'll end up with some interesting choices.
Do you have an acting technique that you ascribe to your work, or is it just something that you've put together throughout your life?
Well, this is interesting because as an actor you'll appreciate this. It depends so much on the medium, because when you are in theater, you have a rehearsal period. And you're able to rehearse 4 weeks, 6 weeks. On Broadway, you're able to rehearse 10 weeks on a show. So your method of working on a part, you can let it just simmer, and you don't have to reach for any quick solutions. And you let it gel and you let it come together. When you do movies, you don't shoot in sequence, you shoot out of sequence. So you have to know what each scene is about. But also, when you're working on a movie, you may have 2 months, 2.5 months to work on certain scenes. Yeah. When you do TV, You you got to have that choice immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And they expect you to have it too. They're not going to give it to you. You're not going to be like, what should I be doing this scene? You got to walk in there ready. Yeah.
Here's the secret for all the actors out there who are in TV and you want to know what the secret is. There are a million different ways to play a scene. Out of all the ways, if you're on TV, you can do it faster.
Do it faster. Okay.
Find the faster choice. And what
so
that
no
means
director
is,
has ever said do it slower.
Never, ever. And
could you wallow in their emotions a little bit more?
No. You have to work on the connective tissue better. Yeah. So what I do when I do a television show, I read the script, and according to Ed K. Martin, he said the first time an actor reads the script is the most important reading you will ever have, because it is the only time you as an actor will ever read the script and experience it the same way the audience will who's watching you. So when you first have that script, where you laugh is where an audience is going to laugh, and where you go, that's where the audience is going to go. He says, and so you have to read with no phones, nothing in the background, just silence, you and that script, and connect. So I make sure that first reading is a pure reading, not in the car, not waiting at Petco for contactless delivery of my cat litter. Right. I get alone with the script and just read it and see how I react to it. And then I think what I do is, and I haven't really put this into words, I think what I do is that a lot of times the rhythm of a piece and the rhythm of a character is in how it's written. I've done a couple Law and Order shows. A lot of short sentences, a lot of periods.
Yeah.
I've been there. I know. I've done that.
Yeah.
I've been there and talked to the jury. I've watched the jury. I know what the jury is going to think. And so I go like, oh, it's that. I've done a lot of sitcom shows where there are a lot of ands and buts. And you go, well, I walked in here and she was lying there on the sofa, but I didn't know quite what to do. And so you start piecing together rhythm, which is different than pacing. Rhythm is the breath of a piece. Pacing is the speed of a piece. Now we're getting into the weeds here
I like
a little
it, though.
bit.
You know, we have a lot of actors that are probably going to watch this, so I really would like to. I don't mind getting in the weeds.
And if you listen to great classical music, you will hear familiar pieces we know, like Moonlight Sonata, or very familiar pieces. You will listen to the difference between rhythm and pacing. And so as an actor, I'm more concerned at the beginning for a TV show with the rhythm of a piece. And if I understand the rhythm, then later I will be able to do the pacing and make it fast.
Do you think that your knowledge of that is key to the fact that you do so many different genres of work?
Oh, gosh.
Because you do comedy, you do serious things, you do stage, you do film, you do television, all this stuff, all of it.
I was lucky in a way because I did all kinds of roles, and then I did Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And after Groundhog Day, I was only going to get comedy. And so after that, I ended up doing sitcoms, movies. Oh, we want the bald guy from Groundhog Day. you know.
Did that really like launch your career like to a new level?
Yes, definitely. I mean, before I was working, I'd done a lot of work before Groundhog Day, but Groundhog Day ended up, and it still is important because none of us knew.
That's what Bill I wondered. I went to see that movie when it was in the theater early on, and I was just like, I'll see that one. Like I didn't know what it was, and I went in and was just blown away. It was the kind of thing where you're like, this changes everything, and it was so great because you didn't expect that. You expected like, a weird Bill Murray movie, but it was awesome.
We all expected a weird Bill Murray movie, even Bill. And we got on the set, and Bill and I, like that street scene, and I've mentioned this before, but the street, not with you, but in my podcast and thing, the street scene, I did with Bill, we actually shot over 3 weeks.
Really?
Because Harold Ramis, there were 9 original scenes in the script that took place with Bill encountering me on the street. Right? I think it ended up being cut down to 4, but originally there were like 9. Yeah. I have cat hair in my mouth.
Me too.
If I'm making any weird gestures, it's
Same
cat
with
hair.
Me too.
Yeah. And Harold Ramis had not decided what the day of the movie was. Oh. Because if you think about it, the day is a character because it's repeated. Yeah. So it has to be the same meteorologically.
Yeah, and you catch clues of what's going on every day through just minute details of each little scene, in each little encounter that he has.
Right. And so Harold Ramis had to decide, is it going to be a sunny day? Oh my God. Is it going to be a rainy day, a sleety day, a snowy day? And what he ended...
The weather always had to be the same, I guess, unless, I don't know, somehow Bill Murray changed it.
Right. No, it had to be the same. And if you remember, he's trapped there because of a blizzard. Yes. So if there was any sunshine, we couldn't shoot. So we did one take. Bill and I were always on a will notify. And for people who don't know what that means on a call sheet, it means you don't really have a day or time you're going to shoot something. So we were always on call. Wow. So if it began to snow, because we're shooting outside of Chicago, if it began to snow, we get the phone call, Bill, you and Stephen come down to the street. Let's do the street scene number 1 in the snow. It's sleeting. Let's do street scene number 1 in the sleet. It's raining. Let's do it in the rain. So we shot those scenes in like 5 different weather conditions over 3 weeks. Now, I mentioned that the Bill and I were first up first day. Yeah. And I was scared as a jackrabbit. Yeah.
Now, do you get scared like that? I wondered about that. You do so much work. Do you ever get scared?
Oh, I get scared when I least expect it. When I opened a Mornings at 7 on Broadway, right? We had previews. We had like at least 3 weeks of previews. I want to say we had more. We had lots of audiences. We had been performing the damn play for weeks and weeks, it seemed like. And then was opening night on Broadway. And Julie Haggerty plays my girlfriend in that show. And we enter about 18 minutes after the curtain comes up. So you have the people out there. I'm about, 7:30. I realize I'm having a little trouble breathing. and my eyes are getting a little funny. And then the show starts, and I'm backstage with Julie, and we used to do the conga dance together to warm up, and we're doing the conga dance. I'm not feeling my legs. Really? I can't feel my feet. I can't feel anything. Wow. Then I can't really see, and it's time for our entrance, and I go out, and I can't remember a word.
No way. Actor's nightmare, but real.
I'm real. And so it gets even worse. So I'm out there and I'm humiliated that I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the lines are. It's opening night on Broadway with Julie. We come off stage after 3 scenes of me having absolutely no idea what a single word is.
Oh my God.
And I go to the stage manager, Roy, and I go, Roy, I'm so sorry. He goes, what about? I said, the lines. I couldn't remember any of the lines. He said, you said the lines.
That's hilarious.
I said, wait. I spoke out there? He goes, yeah, I said all the lines.
You're having an out-of-body experience. Yeah, I've had that. Says, where just all of a sudden you're like, whoa, who's that guy down there?
I said, did the audience laugh?
Yeah.
He goes, yes. Did they laugh in the normal places? Yes. Damn.
Oh my God.
I was so scared I didn't know what was going to happen.
That's incredible. That's such a great story though, because, as actors, we have these moments of like anxiety and fear, and we try and act like we don't, to our peers. We're like, oh yeah, I'm fine. But internally we're like having a freak out. And a lot of times we don't even know what that is, because it happens in a place where you get to the place, you're fine, you're totally fine. And then you get to that opening night and all of a sudden that thing comes in and you're like, what the hell is this?
It was a total nightmare. It's like, but it was instructive to me because I had never really had that kind of absolute freak out before, out of body experience, panic. And so when I had to do the live in front of a studio audience where we did All in the Family and the Jeffersons this last year, right? So Jim Burrows, we had very little rehearsal, but I was aware.
That was so fun to watch because it was so immediate.
Immediate.
One of my teachers, Fran Bennett, was in it as well, and I was just like, oh, yeah. One of my voice teachers, she was so great.
Oh God,
yeah.
It's like, we blocked it on day one. Day two, we did a run through for Norman Lear. Then we have the weekend to learn our lines. Then Monday we had our first audience.
Wow.
Tuesday we do the dress rehearsal exactly like it's going to be live according to the exact time. And they have big clocks backstage. Yeah. So when you go backstage, the amount of time in the commercial, it counts down from 120 down, and there is no time for a broken shoelace.
No.
If there's anything that goes wrong. And so I knew from my experience on Broadway that it is quite possible that in this situation, I could have a total meltdown. Yeah. So I tried to get used to everything. I tried to wear my wig whenever I could. I tried to put on costume pieces. I went over my lines over and over again, like Stanislavski says, doing little chores around the house. I'm doing all my lines. I put my script right on the door where I'm about to enter, and so I can really look at that front line, first line, before I make my entrance.
At least you have that.
And Monday night dress rehearsal, I come out, and Jacquet is out there. I'm having my scene with Jacquet, and the apples fall on the ground, and I'm picking them up, and I have to be this Englishman, which I cannot do anyway. And so I'm going, oh, did you have a problem there? Yeah, here's an apple. Who are you? And she and you are, and I go, well, I am Harry. I forgot my name.
Oh my God.
And Jacquet is looking at me like, fool, don't say you forgot your damn name. And I'm going like, my name is Harry Benson, which is the wrong name. But it was a sitcom again from the same era. So I said the wrong name after the show. And we had an audience.
Yeah.
We had an audience. Afterwards, nobody said anything mean to me about coming up with the wrong name. Just Jim Burrows came up to me and says, maybe you were a little nervous tonight?
No.
I go, yes.
Thanks, Jim Burrows.
But fortunately for the actual live everything, I remembered my damn name. But I mean, I've never experienced anything like that before, but now I know it's possible.
We're going to get back to the sidewalk where you were going to run into Bill Murray in a second, but I want to ask you, in all this time, have you developed techniques to deal with your mind, is essentially, or anything that seems to trip you up besides doing your lines while working around the house and things like that? Do you have mind techniques?
I think you have to make the specifics of what you're doing the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of picking up the apples when they fall in the hallway for Jacquet. It has to be very important to help her with.
Sanford Meisner used to do that, like give people like something to do. If he found that they were in their heads, he would be like, here, sort these leaves, or do something, fold the laundry for real. And that kind of takes you out of that, like thinking about yourself, I guess.
I have a little thing that I kind of made up that I learned with Law and Order, and I only did a couple, three Law and Orders, but I always found that people have trouble with the first moment when you have to redo a scene on television. And the reason they have a problem is you get to the end of the scene right? And you're either being interrogated by police, or in my case, you're a pedophile and you're being dragged out of your home. Right. You know, something, you're in this high, your brain is going, your body's going, the emotions are going, adrenaline is flowing. An actor needs to prepare the moment before zero. Everybody always thinks about what's my first moment on stage. It's like, oh, it's when I'm coming to the door and I'm going to work and I don't know the two policemen are there. Where am I going? What am I doing? Having the moment before zero. When you're at the bar and you order the scotch, the scene begins with you ordering the scotch. But the moment before zero is critically important, and actors don't work on that enough. Like, what is my moment before we start the scene? Am I drinking this? And I found out people drink for only like about 4 reasons. They drink to celebrate. They drink to forget. They drink to mourn, and they drink by mistake.
By mistake.
Like they're just passing the time. They don't really realize they're drinking, and before they know it, oh my God,
they're hammered.
What have I done? I can't drive home. So you have to think of the specific moment why you were sitting at that bar ordering that drink before the policemen come in and hassle you. And then when you start the scene, you have a nice, clear, invented moment before zero that you could always go back to, and you don't get caught up in all the emotions of having done the scene many times. It's really hard on women because on dramas, they're always having to cry.
Oh, I know. I
always.
Look at that. And my wife, she's an actress, and she can cry on a dime, And I'm like, how the hell did she do that? Like, she just boom, because that's her job, big part of her job. And luckily as men, we don't have to be able to conjure those tears as often, we can just be like holding them back. That's usually enough,
So I think if you work on the moment before zero, if you have to do any scene where you're angry or hurt or upset or anything, you'll be able to always get back to a clear, clean place before the scene starts. And you need to work on that. And in theater, you have to do that too, especially. But TV is the worst, because a lot of times the writers don't even think about what is the moment before zero for any of these characters.
No, you have to do it. You have to do it.
I was in a damn movie where the first half of the movie, my name was Tim, and the last half of the movie, my name is Jim.
You're like,
I mean, they didn't even figure out what my damn name was.
They didn't do a find and replace.
No, they didn't do a find and replace.
It's hilarious.
So I was doing it with Richard Crenna, the movie with Richard Crenna, and he just called me Tim, Jim, and every scene.
Whatever.
Just to prick me. Hey, Tim, Jim, could you come over here?
It's an important role. All right, so we got to go back to Groundhog Day. So you're there, you're nervous, you're going to shoot the scene. What happens?
Oh, God, that is remarkable. So I was working on another film in California at the time, and they had the same line producers, the line producer of Groundhog Day, meaning that they could go around SAG rules and not have me have 12 hours in between one and the other.
Wow.
So I shoot all day one in Paris, California, not to be confused with Paris, France. Paris, California. They 2.5 hour drive to LAX, fly to Chicago, get in a car. I arrive at my hotel in Woodstock, Illinois, where we shot Groundhog Day, at 2:30 in the morning. Bill and I are first up at 6:30 in the morning. So I'm thinking, like, I have 4 hours, and I can't, because I have to be up, I have to be ready. So basically I have 2 hours to sleep. So, buddy, go to sleep now, and there'll be time to sleep when you're unemployed. Just now is when you got to strap it on. So went down and met Bill.
Oh my God.
And then 2 remarkable things happened. Harold Ramis introduces me to Bill, and Bill just gets in my face and says, "Show me what you're going to do." I need to know what you're going to do. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm going to, something like that. He goes, okay, you could do that. And he looks, and there were like 500 people from the town watching a shoot, which was more nerves.
Yeah.
And
like you had an audience.
Bill goes,
an audience.
We had an audience there, plus the whole film, plus it's the first scene they're shooting at the movie. It has to be my first scene. Oh my God. And Bill says, you know what these people need? And I go, no, what? He goes, donuts. These people need donuts. It's 6:30 in the morning. So Bill grabs me, takes me to the end of the square where there's the donut shop in Woodstock. He pulls out a wad of cash, puts it on the table, and says, give me every donut, muffin, a pastry you have in this joint.
Wow.
And I held the boxes of donuts, and Bill leaves and he starts throwing donuts out to everybody in the town. And it was like such a brilliant move because everyone in the town was cheering and they thought, oh, this is going to be magnificent. So I get to my spot in the street because remember, everybody says, well, did you and Bill improvise a lot when you did Groundhog Day?
How could you?
Always
How could you?
How could you?
Right?
Exactly.
The thing is so calculated. Yeah.
The day has to be repeated.
Everything comes off
Everything's-
everything that's done. Every event turns on every event. Yeah.
And it is a repeated day.
Yeah.
So it all has to be
It
the
has
same.
to be.
So I enter on the street and there is a brick where when I put my foot on the brick, I turn and say, oh, Phil Connors. Oh, and then I run out of frame and I run to meet Bill.
Yeah.
There was a young AD who was in the street pointing at me like, you're stepping on the brick. Now you're on the
They
brick.
had to
So
time
turn
it just
and do
right.
it.
Yeah.
To time it, so I had to, so you put your right foot on the brick and you step back 1, 2, 3, 4 steps till you're out of frame. And then you walk forward, you reverse
like a
it. So you're
dance.
always, so you're landing on the same brick with your foot so you could turn. Oh, Phil, so everything is the same. That young AD, his first show was Jim Kesselweis, who was my producer on Silicon Valley.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
So that was his first job, but Jim was one of our big producers on Silicon Valley. So I come up, so we are kind of talking through the rehearsal. I'm nervous as can be. And in this crowd of 500 people, there is a face I recognize.
Somebody you know?
Somebody I knew. And it was David Nichols. And David Nichols, I had only seen 4 times in my life. This was the 4th time. The 3rd time I saw David Nichols was in Memphis, Tennessee. When I got married to my wife, Ann, when I was working on Great Balls of Fire, David was working in the art department of that. Wow. And David had a drink with me in the bar after I married my wife, Ann. So the 2nd time I met David Nichols was the first day I came out to Los Angeles. He was working in the art department of a movie called New York, New York. And I was told to call David, and he said, well, why don't you come out and have lunch with me? And my first day in Los Angeles, I had lunch with Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Liza Minnelli, and David Nichols.
No
David invited
way.
me to lunch with those characters.
Oh, my God.
Then the very first time I met David Nichols, I was 15 years old. I was in high school. I was doing the one-act play, playing Arpagon the Miser. And David was a famous actor in Dallas, Texas at the time. And our drama teacher brought David in to teach us all comic timing and how to play comedy, how to hold and how to hit the point and stop and all this sort of stuff. And so that was the first time. He taught me comic timing when I was 15. And so here I am.
It's like your muse.
My muse!
My muse
about
is
to
here.
start this walk in Groundhog Day to do it. I look over and David is standing in front of the crowd and he goes,
really? Oh, that's awesome.
And so my heart was like, and David just passed away this last year, not from COVID, I don't believe. But just recently. Wow. And it was one of those passings that kind of just broke my heart because he was one of those muses, one of those people that was so important in my life, flitting in and out.
That's cool. That is so
and
cool.
so we did that first scene. Bill and I, we did that first scene. And, Bill and I talked about this when we just did the commercial.
Yeah.
The Jeep commercial or whatever for the Super Bowl.
Right.
So,
that was cool.
we met at the hotel that night before, and we were sitting down and reminiscing. And Bill was saying, he didn't remember the donuts. I said, well, I remember that completely. And we both remembered that pretty much the first take was pretty good. Our first take going down the street was pretty good, and Harold Ramis thought well, we really kind of have the scene, so now let's just do it a few times for fun. And here's a crucial thing. This is when we knew the movie was going to be special, because at the time we thought this was going to be, Bill being no consequences and Bill just tearing things apart as per usual. So that was the first day we shot. At the end of that first week was the gigantic scene we were going to shoot where Bill realizes time is stopped and he has no consequences. Wow. And the way the scene was going to be shot, Bill is in the little inn, the room at the inn. So he spray paints the wall. He spray paints stuff on the wall, and then, wakes up the next morning, it's gone. So then he's spray painting the wall. Then he gets out a chainsaw and he starts sawing furniture in half. Then he's in the bathroom and he cuts his hair into a mohawk, all of this stuff. And anybody who knows about movies knows how expensive a scene like this is, because everything you paint, you have to unpaint. Wow. Everything you saw, you have to have doubles for. The wig wig for him to have a mohawk cost $10,000. So it took 2.5, 3 days of shooting at the end of the first week, right? So it's huge, because that is when the studio, which at the time I believe was Columbia, is looking at every bit of footage that you're doing on this movie to see if they like the movie, if they're going to support it or pull the damn plug. Mm-hmm. And Harold Ramis saw the footage at the end of that first week. 3 days of shooting, let's say, probably 2.5. 3 days of shooting involving a cast and crew of about 50 people, all getting salaries. He threw it away.
Oh,
he threw it away.
You're kidding me.
And rewrote it to where Bill is in bed and he's writing notes in his book, and he looks at his pencil, right? Yeah. And he snaps it in two. Yeah. And he puts one half of the pencil on top of the radio, the other half of the pencil on his bedside table. He goes to sleep. Then we hear Sonny and Cher, I Got You, Babe. Bill wakes up, and the pencil is whole.
Wow.
And when I saw that with the full audience, the audience gasped. Yeah. And that was we started getting rewrites about that same time. Danny Rubin and Harold Ramis got together. I remember Harold told me one night, he said, Stephen, the big question we have is what story are we telling? I think we're telling the story of time and the consequences of how we use our time on Earth. And so they started writing, Danny and Harold Ramis started writing all these scenes that became the Act 3 of Groundhog Day. Kid falling from the tree, Bill saving the women with the tire, him trying to save the bum and not being able to save the bum. All this stuff at the end, which is what makes Groundhog Day a classic film and not just a good film, was the fact of Bill trying to perfect his soul. And then finally he's just exhausted, and at the slave auction, everybody, he's the guy who fixed my tire. He's the guy who got me WrestleMania tickets. Yeah. He's the guy who saved my marriage. And Andy McDowell looks at him and goes oh my God, I never knew. And it became it's
as iconic as It's a Wonderful Life,
Yes.
Because it has that heart to it. And
it is a wonderful, wonderful movie. Wonderful.
It really is. Besides the fact that it changed movies forever after that, just because of the nature of the plot. Okay, we've got to end the interview pretty soon here. Unfortunately,
Okay.
We've got so much that we could talk about. But I want to say one question that I have for you is Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Can you tell me something about what that was like to make the movie Spaceballs?
That was nuts. That was like one of my first real movies I ever did in Los Angeles. I was doing a play with Bill Pullman at the time.
You were?
At the Los Angeles Theater Center, the same place where I left the stage and didn't come back.
Yes.
Right.
Duck.
So Bill and I, we were in several productions in that theater and at that theater company.
Yeah.
So we were doing Barabbas, I think is what we were doing, Michel de Gelderode's Barabbas. I was playing Pontius Pilate, and Bill was playing the leading role of Barabbas. And he invited Mel Brooks to come see Barabbas because he was going to do Spaceballs. And so Mel came to see the play, and afterwards, Mel came up to me in the lobby and said, "Hey, we have a part.
Yeah.
Would you like to come and be in Spaceballs?"
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, God, yeah, sure." He says, "Well, come meet me in my office, and we'll go through some stuff and see if you could do it. We'll see if you could do it." So I went over to his office, and I rehearsed Captain of the Guard, and Mel just basically okay, that's good, that's fine. And so I was going to get paid for this. They were going to pay me $1,000 for the day. So I showed up Monday to do the Captain of the Guard, and they didn't do Captain of the Guard. So they said, "Well, we'll try to get to it tomorrow." So I came the next day, no Captain of the Guard. Next day, no. Next day, no. I'm going Friday. They said, "Well, just come in tomorrow." I said, "Well, I was expecting to work on Monday, and it's Friday now, and they didn't like that I'm terribly busy, but I mean, I have to." And the AD said, "Stephen, you get paid every day you're here."
You're like, "Great."
I went, "Wait a minute. Wait, I get paid when I don't work?" "Yeah, you get paid every day." "I get paid $1,000 a day to just sit here and eat like snacks?" He goes, "Yeah, if that's what they're paying you." I thought well, this is the business for me. Yeah. And so we shot Friday, the end of the day. And I, of course, Mel Brooks has that kind of energy all the time.
Does he?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
I mean, all the time. He's always on 100%. So that was, and later we did Mad About You. Uh-huh. And I played the principal, and he played my student because he's like wants to come back to high school. So I was playing a principal in that, and so we reminisced a little bit about Spaceballs and that. But it was a huge break for me, and that's when I realized I really want to do this movie stuff.
So hey, I want to know for our other actor people out there. I know that you say that you give people different advice throughout your life for when somebody says, "What do I do to have a prolific career like you do?" What is your advice at this particular moment for young actors, not even young actors that have not worked as much as you have?
I just had a Satori actually this last year, and that was my advice. Always used to be what people used to tell me: get a job, get an agent, get a good job, get a good agent. Uh-huh. And it's that the job always comes first because agents prefer actors who get their own work.
Yes, of course.
You can't wait around for the agent. So that was the thing I was, that means just be persistent, just keep at it, whatever. That was my advice until this last year. And I was doing Schooled, which was a spinoff of the Goldbergs, and we loved doing Schooled even though it's not coming back. And we had one kid on there. It was his first show. His father was there. I think his name was Justin. He was 16 years old, nervous as can be. Oh, yeah. He didn't have any lines, but he had to high five one of the lead kids in the high school. Had to high five. And his father said, "Do you have any advice?" And so I'm thinking back about my first job, and the Satori happened. The curtain parted, and I realized I had missed this fact my entire life. The first sitcom job I ever got was on the TV show Alice, playing Caveman Carl. who was like Wolfman Jack. He was like a rock and roll FM DJ. Hey, how you do? You know, that kind of thing. Oh, all right, baby. Hawaiian shirt and all that stuff. Wild man. Yeah. I did not audition for that part. Mindy Marin was the casting director, and I had been in to see Mindy like 6 times. All of them failed. I did not get a call back once from Mindy. And as an actor, I just looked and said, like, I'm going down the drain. I can't get any traction in this town. I can't get anywhere. For whatever reason, the caveman Carl they had fell through. I don't know what it was, what happened. But the day of the shoot, Mindy Marin called me at home and said, Stephen, are you doing anything today? And I said, no. Can you come to Warner Brothers? We're going to shoot this in front of the audience today. We need a caveman Carl. Could you come in, read the scene through with Beth Howland, who you'll be doing the scene with, and if the producer and director approve, we'll put you right into hair and makeup, and then you're going to go out in front of the audience and shoot it. Can you do that? And I go, well, sure, Mindy. And this is what I missed. Mindy did not call me in to read for Caveman Carl originally. I got the phone call because of my failures. I had all of these failures with Mindy, never getting a call back. And so as an actor, as a young actor or any actor out there, what happens if you don't kick yourself to death every time you perceive that you fail? Every time you don't get a call back, every time you don't get the job? What would you do if you realize that actually you may be succeeding in a way you don't know? I apparently made enough of an impression with Mindy that when the chips were down, she called me and said, could you come in and do this? If actors realized that you are not failing, even if you don't get a call back, you would see your life and your career and the work you're trying to do either on stage or on film in a completely different way, and not in a destructive way. You would have more hope and more heart. You cannot let your heart become your enemy in this business, because then you cannot continue. You're gone.
Yourself.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I think I'm going to have to end the interview on this note because it's such great advice. Thank you so much, Stephen Tobolowsky, for being on the show. You're one of the great storytellers of our time. I think that's what I'm going to say, because we talked a lot about acting and technique and stuff like that, but something about, the fact that you have had these incredible experiences in your life, but not only have you had them, but you can relate the story so other people experience it as well. I highly recommend people see the movie Stephen Tobolowsky's Birthday Party, because he just tells one story after another. It's his birthday. And there's one of the great ones is where you are held at gunpoint at the Gelsons, which is just, I'll never forget that story.
Yeah, that was, neither will I.
So thanks so much for being on the show. Thanks for being here on Lunch Therapy. And we'll keep watching. We know there's much more to come from Stephen Tobolowsky.
Well, thank you, Joel. Thank you so much.
Of course. Wow. That was pretty intense. That's a new slogan for, I don't know if it's a slogan, but it's a new thing, new message to us as hummingbirds or lunch therapists. You cannot let your heart become your enemy. That's Stephen Tobolowsky's great interview. Yeah, it was just really inspiring, Stephen. Wow. Yeah, I'm moved by that. Informational and great to have him on the show. All right, it's time to dance our way out. Dance break at the end of Lunch Therapy. Thank you, Ben McKnights. I appreciate any technical help on my show, as you all know. Here it comes. Dance break time. Feel free to keep commenting. And feel free to dance. This is somebody I found out there on YouTube. Not a ton of hits, but super talented, playing Fleetwood Mac.
Now
Great
there you
band.
go again, you say you want your freedom. Well, who am I to keep you down?
Just him, bunch of pedals and a guitar.
It's only right
Montreal.
you should play it the way you feel it. Listen carefully to the sound of a loneliness like a heartbeat drives you mad in the stillness of remembering what you had and what you lost and what you had and what you lost. Sit thunder on heavens when it's raining.
Thanks everybody for joining us here on Lunch Therapy. Noon every day. Interviews on Friday. Fun all the time. Breathing. Keep on breathing. Keep on dancing. See you next week.